about your leadership style, of course, that, do you think it changed also after, COVID? Do you think you're more attentive to, the folks that employees that stayed throughout? How do you think, what is the weight that it has right now?
Yeah. I think that the main thing that has changed, I like to lead by example, and I like to, anything that I would ask anyone in my hotel to do, I would have no doubt of doing, and I like to have fun. And so whenever I have to address something, it's always reinforced in a positive and fun way. And it's there's been times, yes, that when people we have had to have hard conversations, and it was pretty obvious after the hard conversation that the person just wasn't aligned with what we were going as a business and as a hotel, as a team, and so they will just choose to find their own way out. It's quickly, and so but leading by example, I think that comes natural for me. Um, in one of the things that I noticed, and I mentioned this earlier, that has been the biggest change for me as a leader is to be open about how I'm feeling. That I'm also things also come up for me. Before COVID, I was always, even when I had my bad days and things were happening, even at work, when I was frustrated with something at work, you know, it's I just kept very energetic, and tried very hard not to show what was happening. But once COVID happened and I was alone and there was nobody, I just let it out. And then one day I realized I other people might be going through the same thing, and if we don't talk about it, how can we even reach out for help? Uh, and so I started doing that, and so I've noticed that other people, other managers, and we became closer. And it's almost it it's it's really hard to explain. It's just like we're stronger because we know each other better, and we accept, and we just have grown together. And when we see new people coming, it's almost like they immediately just adopt that, and so, but there is a, obviously, there's a line, right? We are very professional, and we have very high standards of how we interact with our guests. But there's that underneath of, like, it's okay if you had a bad day. It's okay that, um, to talk about it if you need to. And we don't ask people, and I don't really go into like specifics about, like, this thing happened in my personal life, and people are gonna know my secrets or all my struggles, but they know, right? Like, I'm not having a good day. It's really a rough, and things are happening, and um, I would appreciate your patience, if I'm, like, my head is not where it needs to be. So I think that's been the biggest thing that COVID has taught me.
Basically, it's like you think you improved your communication abilities with,
Yes,
your circle of managers and leadership at the hotel. And
definitely.
that's
Yes.
definitely, I think, it's important, because also, like I said earlier during our conversation, right? We are people, we are dealing with guests. They have their own feelings, we have ours. And also, obviously, we cannot show them, right? It's like, hey, that there's so much that we can do in this time. But I think in terms of being open and talking about, and like you said, writing the journal, how was your day and all of that.
Mhm.
Like, I also, shared on LinkedIn some days, I believe it was like late July. I took a photo, and I was really sad. I was by myself at the hotel on my 10-hour shifts, and
Yeah.
I had this journal that it um said something enlightening, like, hey, write your journey and you can change the future, something like that. And I was talking to another hotel friend, right? And she said, well, um, be careful what you say. There's a lot of people out there without jobs right now, almost like lecturing me. And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, well, thank you for sharing. Your thoughts. I appreciate it, because also when you share something personal with someone that is not working with you on a daily basis, one of the most I think the most amazing thing that I discovered is I can tell you the story, right? You can empathize with it or not, but
Mhm.
also what you're going to think about my life experience is not going to change because I am the one living it. So I think, also for me, I've learned a lot how to not overshare,
Mhm.
because I'm like really open. And at the same time, like you've noticed, like now we connect on LinkedIn and that's how we are talking here today.
Mhm.
So it's about, yes, personal branding. Yes, I like to do yoga on the weekend. Yes, I take my family to go on a boat riding in Annapolis. This is the new place where I am now. So it's like, what are you doing besides work? What is your balance? So I
Mhm.
think that, a lot of people realize that Wilka is not just here to close deals, but she's also sharing what she's doing to engage with, the folks that are following her. And,
Mhm.
honestly, I sometimes might think that I'm oversharing, but, like last 2 weekends ago, I was in Miami and then I was like, well, let me make a video using a filter on Instagram and I'm going to share this on LinkedIn because I never use filters. I'm a millennial. I like to take pictures all day besides being Brazilian, right? Um, but it's like, honestly, it doesn't matter if I have a filter or not. People, it's not, you're not going to be like, 10 out of the maybe 5 out of 10 people are not going to like your content, which is okay.
Mhm.
They can unfollow you. It's totally fine, and then the other five, they just sending me an amazing message, supportive like you did,
Yeah.
and I think we have like that same background when we started, right? We were talking, off camera and we were saying, hey, I'm from Brazil. I immigrated here by myself, have to be strong and have to do all of this, things to break through this career in this country by myself. And it's not easy,
Mhm.
it's not my first language. English is not my first language. And, sometimes it's when you're trying to prove your point across and then people keep asking you and pressuring you, it's like, wait a second, this is what I want and this is how what I meant. So it's like you have to push back to also learn how to interact and how to speak,
Yeah.
on a higher level, right? I even
Mhm.
made a comment the other day to a friend. I was like, the way I talk to somebody at Starbucks, is the same way I talk to my guests because, I'm not gonna be. I make crack jokes all day with guests, like
Yeah.
today, even a guy was like, hey, can I have a pool towel? I'm like, yeah, $50. And this person was like looking at me, what? Are you serious? And I'm like, no, I'm joking. It's like, but to break that ice,
Yeah.
and people are just like so uptight because they don't know what is the new charges that are going to come up on in the hotel business or when traveling or arrive.
Yeah.
So it's
That's true.
interesting to see, but definitely I think the connections through this amazing platform which is LinkedIn. I've had the chance to talk to you. I've had a chance
Mhm.
to you know connect, like even though we've never met in person, but it's like we are in the
Yeah.
same field, we are in the same company, we are going through the same struggles and challenges, so I think people are closer that way, right? That we
Mhm.
can communicate and every day, but at the same time, you have to make sure you don't really pay so much attention to those, that are not supporting your efforts, which is fine as well. You just move on and hang out with the people that do support you, because that's my philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I absolutely love what you're doing. I love, like I said, we have never met in person, but um, I saw your posts and your videos on LinkedIn, and I really haven't seen that on LinkedIn, especially in the hospitality world. Everything is very serious, very formal. Um, and I absolutely love what you're doing. I mean, you feature your hotel. and you talk about it, you talk about the clients and connecting and how important connection is. And that energy and that creativity, I'm just so attracted to. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my people.
Thank you so
It's
much.
inspiring. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very inspiring. It's like, it's like somebody that's thinking outside the box and not afraid that, the LinkedIn is so far has been very formal and that is not Instagram. And it's like, but this is my channel. This is who I am. This is what I do. And this is how I communicate. And this is how I feel comfortable communicating. And you embody that even on LinkedIn when it's like had the perfect profile picture and very professional. And I love that because people are seeing you as how you are, and that's what attracts people to you. Your How natural you are and your confidence, and it feels right for me. Right.
Yeah, and then I think, you said something that it hit me also, because in the end of the day, it's like I was looking for inspiration myself,
Mhm.
right? Because how I'm
Yeah.
gonna sell something that nobody's buying, right? Nobody was buying hotels 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you find the health workers, the
Hmm.
contractors, the government
Yeah.
people, but it's like, come on, guys, there is somebody that is buying or is going to buy in the future. So what we're
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
talk about now, so
Exactly.
that was a way for me to still put myself out there, right? Because it's like on the sales training, we always talk about, hey, people need to see you minimum 5 times and then they're gonna remember you, if they list this cold calling is not working anymore, or they need to see you 5 times, actually see you and sit down
Yeah.
with you. It's just like, oh my gosh, how these people are gonna see me all this time, and it's
Yeah.
COVID. I need to keep my job, right? It's like
Yeah.
nerve-wracking. But I think um, for me, it was definitely a way for me to feel inspired.
Hmm.
And there is a certain people that follow and they just give you such a good energy, and they come and they comment on your efforts, and it's inspiring because sometimes, right, you can post something and it's your channel, but it not might be the best, for the city at that time, I was in Miami, like I said, 2 weeks ago, and I met a friend for a walk, like on a Saturday morning. And then I just said, "Can you hold on my phone? Because I don't have my equipment here, like, right? I need my selfie stick or stuff to make it a video."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, how do I do?" I was like, "You just need to press the button and I'm gonna talk." And then what I talk about, right? It's like, it doesn't matter, like, oh my gosh, come to Miami, it's beautiful. It is, even
Yeah.
though if you
Yeah.
saw, I didn't mention anything that I stayed in a hotel, and I didn't. I stayed with friends because, they invited me to go and stay down with them. And I'm
Mhm.
like, but it's happening, right? The energy of the city and the sun is shining. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm going for a walk. It's just like, oh my gosh, this feels like life and travel is
Yeah.
back,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's exciting, right? People want to see real people, right? Like,
Hmm.
there's not
Exactly.
a production behind me,
Hmm.
I'm making videos with my iPhone, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm fine and whatever, right? I speak, and that's one of the things that I encourage people, that are um language, the English is their second language. It's like, you got to put yourself out there, you got to speak, you got to express yourself. No, don't worry about, third parties, like, oh, your English, your accents, this. You got my point, correct? So let's move
Yeah.
on. What else you want to talk about now? Like, because it's an effort, that we have to make. And you are a Spanish speaker, correct?
Yes.
First language.
I am.
So
Yes.
did you have like that challenge, or do you think the language with, the leadership in the hotel, it gets you closer to the employees, doesn't it?
It does. So it's funny. It's I have always been conscious of my accent because every day of my life, today hasn't happened